excited to be back once again, where we discuss topics beyond being award-winning educators from the perspectives of friends, mothers and wives, citizens, and health-conscious women.
That's right, Sharifa. Our impact goes far beyond the walls of the school. Follow us through our life's experiences as we create our own narratives.
We cannot wait to get started. So let's go. And we're back.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. That's all you get today.
There.
No more the rest of the night.
I thought about doing a What's on Your Playlist in which we would have to sing out our most in rotation.
Oh.
Do you have one?
In
my bag of tricks.
I feel like you set me up.
Why?
Because you didn't tell me that we were doing this.
I know. Spontaneous song is my favorite classroom trick.
Right now, in my heavy rotation is...
Maybe I'll even join you if I know the song.
Corinne Hawthorne.
Nope.
Unstoppable.
I feel like that's been in your rotation for a while.
Right.
Okay.
So I didn't know it had to be a new rotation.
No.
And what has recently, since it had to be new, I didn't know that.
No, sing it.
Cause I'm unstoppable. I'm trying to do it in your key.
Nope, your key.
I get all the way. Cause I'm unstoppable.
That sounds beautiful.
That
sounds
just
like me. Okay, so why? Why is the song? Since you're not going to sing it
because one of my favorite lines is, I say a prayer, catch a wave, then I go out and get it. So,
okay, bars.
That's what I try to do every day when I'm on my way to work. I'm like, I say a prayer, catch a wave, and then I'm gonna go out and get it. I'm unstoppable, even if my anxiety levels have kicked in and I'm having anxiety attacks in the middle of the night.
Oh no.
Just that time of change.
Right.
That song always gets me into a place where I feel like I can go out and get it.
Yes. I know where I heard that was your song. You did a blog post about that song.
Oh, I did.
You did the Fear and Underwear blog post. Check it out, y'all. It's good.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Now it's on to Brent.
What's in your rotation?
Oh gosh. So Reckless Love.
Yes.
And
you don't have to tell me why on that one.
Oh, really?
I mean, I know I like it.
You like it too?
Uh-huh.
Do you want to sing it?
Nope.
Okay.
Hit it.
I'm not gonna sing, but I do.
You have to do it in your key.
I don't know what my key is.
That. Your talking voice is your key.
Like the part about how God's always chasing after you even though you're not worth it.
Yes.
And that he leaves the 99 just for you. For me, not you, me. And, because I'm God's favorite. So
look up the meaning of Kisha.
So yes, that is in heavy rotation. And we sang it at church the other night, but I had heard it just before then, and so I was like, Lord, this is like you're calling me with this song. So I've been keeping it in rotation. Yeah, so
only one song, thank you.
Nope, no more.
You sounded like you were trying to
I got a lot. Next episode maybe we'll share another one and I'll be ready to sing because it's kind of late. My voice is gone.
I'm pretty sure your voice sounds like that.
24/7.
Early in the day, middle of the day, afternoon, late at night.
Right. So, okay, so let's do some friend fixing.
I missed you.
I know, it's been a while.
I think I was absent.
You were marked absent with no excuse.
Unexcused absent.
For our interview with Stacie McClam. Yeah. Hey, girl.
I missed you, Stacie. Maybe we'll get to talk another time, girl.
Yeah, and she dropped some knowledge, some serious knowledge, and I think we had a great time. And we did miss you, of course, but I mean, I
could tell.
It was great.
I could tell y'all missed me.
Oh, could you?
I could.
Oh.
I could tell little spots where it was supposed to be me saying something. I did enjoy it, though. I did enjoy it.
Yeah, so I wanted to give you a little time to weigh in on just your idea of teacher trauma, because Stacie talked pretty in-depthly about how that can affect, the workplace. And this is not necessarily teacher talk, but it is a follow-up on a teacher talk. So yeah. I wanted your opinion on just school house trauma.
I found that aspect really interesting because I recently experienced a teacher, actually a couple of teachers who have been suffering from, I guess we would call it classroom trauma, schoolhouse trauma. Mm-hmm. Literally had a teacher who had to go out for 2 weeks due to being traumatized by a student. And I was happy that she took time off to get herself together, she definitely had to, get some prescription assistance to help her cope and manage. She's doing very well right now.
So is she back from her 2 weeks?
She's back.
Okay. Is the student still in her class?
He is. It wasn't like a fighting, or it wasn't like the kid was violent. It wasn't throwing a fit. Like, it wasn't that type of trauma. Mm-hmm. I will say, as I pause for a second, and not necessarily talking about this teacher in particular, but I think that oftentimes we have teachers in our buildings who have experienced some type of trauma themselves,
right?
Prior to ever becoming classroom teachers. And so I do think that it is important that that teachers, kind of take an assessment of their own mental health and like anything that's hard for them to get through. Because like I said, I've been experiencing like severe anxiety over the last 3 weeks, just in my own personal, professional life. And, I had to really try to take some steps back to shake it off and be able to go to sleep at night and, not have a panic attack and things like that. But it wasn't like from a teacher or a student. It was just like the pressures of change happening around me and making decisions and all that stuff. But like, we have to be very conscientious about when we are slipping into those times. And as I said, I think that some teachers have experienced their own level of trauma, in their own personal lives, and it kind of sometimes carries over into the classroom.
Right. So, I think that's what Stacie was saying too, was like, it doesn't have to be that you have a violent kid or that you got hit at school or anything like that. It's just like taking on the pressures of your responsibilities, and everybody can't do that, and some people try to outperform, and when they realize, I think she said, unsuccessful striving could lead to teacher trauma.
Right.
So it's like, we're never winning. I'm never winning. And then all of a sudden you feel like a loser. And then, your results or your success is based on external things like, your school and the students and all that, and it has nothing to do with you, but you internalize it.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree. I do remember hearing that about never winning and just striving and feel like you never won. I mean, that even happened in our professional development yesterday. We were looking at scores, of course, and Lexile level growth. And it's crazy because I'm trying to decide if we're going to talk about, can we go ahead and talk about this one and this one? Okay. So it's crazy because honestly, our principal was coming from a very positive angle.
Okay.
Like she was really trying to let them see that they're actually growing at a faster rate. Mm-hmm. However, the teachers were taking the data and beating themselves up with it. Yeah. And it was really hard to watch. It made me sad. And it made, because I'm looking and I'm like, ladies, you have grown like 9, 10, 11 months in a 7-month period. So your kids are growing at a faster rate than what would be expected for average growth. Mm-hmm. So it really made me sad because they couldn't see the good in what they're accomplishing for our kids. Right. And there was nothing we could say to convince them. There was nothing we could say. And it wasn't even, and there have been times when it's been, where teachers are getting beaten across the head about data and their numbers. But that wasn't the case yesterday. Thank goodness. But it still happened. Right. So it's a shame that even in a time of success, our teachers are still beating themselves up. And it's hard. I don't know how to make them feel better. I don't know how
so I can speak on that because when I think this last semester, our EOC scores went up from the previous semester. And then our administrator comes in like all celebratory. And we're like not really celebrating with her because we're like, we all know what it is and it's still not good. So I think that, sometimes administrators try, but when you're in it, like, what the expectations are. And we also know the pressures that are looming on us. So it's like, yeah, you're trying to celebrate with this little bit, but we all know at the end of the semester, here you go and come again. Because basically, and this is clearly going into a teacher talk, as a teacher who works in a low-performing school, our data is used as a weapon. And we called it weaponizing data because
I like that too.
We basically feel like we're only as good as a score anyway. So if the scores rose, they're still not 100%, and they're still not 80%. And as long as the students are failing, then teachers will feel like you're failing. And then it's like this whole mental part where you feel like, why am I even here trying when we know that the results are still like very destitute?
Right. And that's kind of exactly how I would say that our teachers felt like they still felt like it wasn't good enough. Yeah. And the teacher in particular that really took it to heart, which she is one of my heartbeats in the school building. Like we are super close. I love her so much. She works hard. She definitely has the kids' best interest in mind, and she has great relationships with her parents. Like she is grinding day in and day out. Right. But her thing was, it's a catch-22. She loves teaching the special ed population, which is her group, but she always feels dejected no matter how much those babies grow because she feels like she's not doing right by them. And, you try to, I don't know what. So she just felt dejected, but that's the population she loves to teach. Yeah. So I don't know. It's almost as if you have to just not give up, but you kind of almost have to get yourself in a place of understanding that there is a deficit with this population. if they're growing, and it's not like we're talking a month every year, you know what I'm saying? Like a month's growth in a year. Like if they're growing and you're seeing improvements, whether that is self-esteem improving, you know, whether that is they didn't talk in class, now they talk, like there are other goals that can be met. And I know we talk about the mindset shift of growth, just growth in general, but I feel like when you teach a special ed population, you can get down on yourself. You can start feeling sad. You can start feeling like what you're doing is not good enough, especially what got her was that her babies had grown like 300 Lexile points, right?
Yeah.
But next to all the other numbers, hers looked so low.
Yeah.
But like her class had grown 300. Like these babies came in barely being able to read.
Right.
And now they can't. But it's something about, like you said, I guess a history of weaponizing data and like having it
and
set
also
up.
like special ed populations aren't considered when you're talking about data anyway, because all of them get grouped together. So it's not like anyone's saying, oh, you know, you could separate that and that would be a good way to look at data. But at the end of the year, no one cares. And you know, the idea that your group is bringing down the rest of the school, that could be something that's, you know, tugging on you. Or, I mean, and not even just special ed, but like a school that's historically scoring low is like, you know, come to realize that there are teachers who never would experience the type of work environment that I've experienced or that you've experienced or that anyone who is teaching in a low performing school has experienced. For the same amount of pay in the same school district, my story would be different than yours because you never even had those meetings about data. Like, they don't even know how to do data. It's the same county.
I know what you mean.
And it's like, oh, no, y'all work 10 times harder, but the scores aren't showing it, and they're not working at all, and their scores are fine. So it's like, what are the scores really, you know, what is the data really doing for us? But just confirming that there's disparities.
Right. I see. I absolutely understand.
At what point, you know, and one of my coworkers always says, who decided what a good score was anyway? Like, like what are we measuring it up to? And then what happens at the high performing schools when they're at 98%? Like, are they pushing them to get to 100? Because that's impossible.
Right. So one of the principals in our county, and I really respect her and I love her heart, and she is just so logical and just so, you know, she expressed to our director of elementary schools that she was just like, you know why our overall county morale is so bad? And the district lady was like, no, I don't. And she said, because there's always going to be somebody who's last. If you keep, you can keep putting us up in rank order like this. And even if a person we can all be in the 90s, but somebody's always going to be last. And it doesn't matter how good we do. Like, it's always going to be somebody that's feeling, you know, down in the district, even if it was, like, I remember when I first came to our school, it was like we were beating over half of the state of Georgia. Yeah. But in our district, we were at the bottom. Like, it was just like, you know, there's no winning. So here we are beating really a large majority of Georgia in the elementary schools that are comparable to ours. Right. But we're still not good enough. Right. So from a overarching level, I understand what you mean about, you know, just feeling that defeated feeling all the time. But I do feel like we are responsible for changing the frame through which we view ourselves and view our schools. And we, even in those But I have been one of those people crying in the AP meeting. I can't lie.
Oh.
Like where I left out of the assistant principal's meeting because our scores were flashed up. Everybody could see them. And here we were at the bottom, and I had to literally go to the bathroom and sob like a... So, like, I know that sometimes people or teachers might feel like it's just the APs or the principals who are on them, but, like, it affects us, too. I feel just as responsible because that's the way we operate in our districts. Like we are held accountable for our academic achievements or lack thereof. So I cried because I knew how hard our teachers had been working. I cried because I knew how hard we had been. Like I felt like I had been like in all the planning meetings. I had been trying to help think it through and, not take over, but be supportive. Like, I tried so hard, and it's just like, whoa. And, they changed the whole expectations of CCRPI anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But, like, outside of that, I wept for our school. So,
yeah,
it's all of us, I feel like.
And some people, like, someone told me that, well, a couple people told me that in APS, they have a rally. It used to be at the Georgia Dome. And then they would have, like, top-performing schools stand up, and then they would go all the way down to the bottom. So it's basically every single school in the district, and they announce, like, you did this, you did this, you did this. And so every school is recognized, but it's in that, like, in an arena type of thing. And she was, the person I was telling me about it was like, it was humiliating, and they didn't even want to go. It's like, why are we going here? We already know what our scores look like, but then it's like, she felt like it was a personal attack to the low-performing schools. Like, it was a celebration for the higher ones, but it's like, you shouldn't feel like you suck. Like, that is, like, especially when, the teaching profession is not one that's easy, and teaching the lowest of the low is a hard thing. Like, who is volunteering for that? Plenty of people are volunteering to go, and like I was talking to Stacie about, was the majority of people who are experiencing a lot of this trauma are people who are volunteering to go back into the community like the ones they grew up in and be a representative to, a community that needs representation. Like, it's just,
seriously,
it's a lot going on that would even put you in that place. And then to treat teachers who are in that place horribly because the scores are how they are. It's like, dang, should I have gone across town to the high-performing school and gotten all the money and the benefits and the no stress and, all of that? So I think what was really frustrating for us when we were going through this was every time we came up with an idea or every time we came up with something, the scores came back up. Well, your scores are this. So what are you doing to raise those scores? And we're like, okay, these are the things that we're trying to do. Yeah, but you're the lowest in the county. So it just kept, and we're like, okay, so what do we do? Like, even though we have ideas, you keep telling us that our scores are so bad. And so it's like, I can understand how that would lead to trauma in the school.
It's discouraging.
Like a hostile work environment.
Yeah, it's discouraging for sure. And it is. It's heartbreaking. Like I said, it just made me so sad yesterday when that sweet teacher was just like, I just feel like I'm not good enough for my kids. And I'm like, your kids have grown so much. I wish you would have, I really want, but, I guess that's just, again, reflecting. It's just a way to highlight it on us. I mean, highlight it for them on a more regular basis where they feel like it's authentic and they really understand that it's not that our expectation is that your kids are getting better and better every day. It doesn't have to look a certain way, Right.
And I think that more of that probably, I think that, you can look at data and previous scores once and the teachers know. So by bringing it up over and over really that's not conducive to anything, because I think that people forget or they think that teachers don't know. But we know more. Like, I feel like teachers probably know
intimately involved with.
Yeah, like before we have data digs, we've already dug data. Like,
for sure.
We, as soon as the scores come in, we know exactly, how it goes down. But I don't think that there's no benefit of the doubt for that. But I wonder what would happen if there was no data to look at. Like, for me, like, me staying in the classroom has nothing to do with data. Like, I made that very clear to my administrators, to anybody. I'm not really here for that part. If the data comes and it's great, that's great. But, me in the place where I am in teaching, I'm not going to teach the test. I'm not going to change scores. I'm not going to do all that because I feel like my job in the classroom is to impact lives, not to teach biology. So I had to step back from just all that weaponizing the data and making, being hostile about it and be like, what am I here for? Not here for you, not here for you, not here for you. I'm here for these kids. And when the doors close, I do the best that I can every day. And I'm tired at the end of the day. And it's been a great day. So, I think that for teachers who are struggling with that, just find out the reason why you're even there in the first place.
You have to remind yourself of the why. That was the other reason. Another thing that me and another special ed teacher had to go through because the paperwork was not being completed in a timely manner. We just had to stay on them or whatever. But that's what I had to do paperwork. And I told him, I said, that's not my natural thing. Like, that's not what I run to school for every day. Right. Paperwork. And so we just had to talk, and I just said, what are you passionate about? And he was like, people in general. And I said, well, you're going to have to use the people, all of these little people that are under your care. Like, you have to keep your paperwork together for those little people. So that's your why. And just know that even though you don't like the paperwork, but if you don't do the paperwork, then little Lily is going to not get the services that she needs if you don't do it. If people are your passion, then let the person be the why behind the paperwork. So it is. I think the why is very important. Yeah. And if you lose sight of that, you will go crazy and you will experience trauma, I think.
And I do think, I know that we talked about maybe some other alternatives is like, in low-performing schools, if the focus is only data, then, it gets depressing. And then, like, I feel like the alternative would be celebrate, like, other things that aren't related to data. Like, celebrate, even if it's birthdays, or make it a celebration environment where you're not only just talking about how bad the data is all the time, every day, whenever there's a meeting. Like, you have to celebrate teachers who are doing just the smallest little things. You have to celebrate students who are making gains or like just trying harder or being a good citizen or, just all of that. Because I feel like
that is rough if the only conversations that you truly stop by to have are conversations about performance or the lack thereof.
Oh, yeah. And I think we were told in our meetings, the only thing we're allowed to even talk about was data. So in our planning meetings, we weren't allowed to plan. We were only allowed to discuss data. And I'm like, I don't understand how you could do any of that without any planning. But nonetheless, that is not a conducive environment for success. Like, we see this data. And we see it, and we see it, and we see it, and we see it. At every meeting, you see the data. Yeah. So it's like, okay. So I just think that there needs to be just a different type of conversation. And as we are moving away, I think, from a lot of some of the standardized tests, I'm thinking next year, it's going to be very interesting to see how they can measure, because Americans love to measure and compare and put someone first, put someone last. Right. How are you How are you going to measure the engagement that they're saying needs to be in the classroom and the thought-provoking and the engineering practices, like all these things that are coming down the pipeline that they're saying in one ear, that's what we need to do. But on the other side of your neck, you're saying this data is not good enough. So it's like,
Yeah, it's funny because, we oftentimes like to use just regular relationship principles as far as what we should be doing between teacher and student, teacher and parent, administrator and teacher.
Right.
And so, let's just think about it just in any type of relationship, friendship, or with your spouse. Would we be happy if every time we got with our husband, they were like, okay, the last time I saw you, you had only lost 1 pound.
Right.
Like, I need you to get to this 5 pound
or
mark.
You only made this much money.
Right. Last time, look, when we came together last time, you making this. Listen, I need you to get that $5 extra a day. Like,
right.
And that's the only conversation other than a hey or bye in the hallway in passing. So it's like that whole deposit, the love deposits, just depositing into your bank because that can be seen as super negative, super heavy. So if we haven't, as you said, poured into, celebrated, loved on teachers a lot
in the beginning,
right?
Because
without the numbers, without the data,
and at this point, it's like, and I see some administrators at my school really trying now to reverse, but it's like we've gone too far down this road. So at this point, everything you do is fake.
Right.
And you don't want that because it's like, no matter what you do, your data is all wrong for me. You know what I mean?
No, that's true.
Like, you come at us this way, and I understand, I see you trying, but it's like, it's received with an eye roll, like, every time.
So teachers use that word a lot. Oh, when I've had, teachers complaining about admin in the past. Oh, that person's fake. They're always fake. Blah, blah, blah. So what do you feel like as a teacher, what shows authenticity with administrators versus even if they are saying words that are nice or they're trying to have nice actions, what would make it seem authentic to you? I heard you say early, start early. But what else? And what is it?
So I feel like if you're consistently showing me the same thing, then that's not fake. But don't smile and then send a crazy email the same day. Or, don't sprinkle a little gift here and then turn around and say, I didn't get this and this and that. Like, so I feel like if you're two-sided, I'm going to believe one of them. And most likely it's not going to be the one that's nice. And then I think that, if someone, because I'm good, I feel like I'm good at calling a spade, and I will talk to you about it before I talk about you with it. If I'm telling you to your face, like, I don't like the way that you send emails to me, I'm offended by them. And then you say, let's just like all of that, then I'm like, okay, I'll give you another chance then.
Right.
And if the emails still are crazy, then I'm like, oh, well, clearly this is how they really are. And this other, nicey is just a way that you feel like you probably have to be because someone told you got to be like that. But the real you is probably who's sending these crazy emails to me.
Right. So you basically believe in Maya Angelou's.
When they show you who they are.
Yes. Believe them.
Believe it, because I don't show that. Like, I'm not going to show you nasty unless I am. I don't know in what world do you, in face to face, girl, you kiki and all this, and then turn around and it's time to send an email, and all of a sudden it sounds like an attack.
Gotcha.
And I don't think it's an environmental thing. I don't think I think that really is probably what it is. And, for this person in particular, like, there was a situation before we came in the room, and someone who heard her talking was like, oh, she tore y'all up. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, well, now I know for real, like, that really is who you are.
And that breaks the trust, which also filters into so many other things.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, girl, I can laugh and smile and do all of that, but I will not eat the popcorn that you gave me. or the little notes.
No, thank you. I won't have any.
Right. So it's kind of like, I see what it is, and that's what it is. Ride it out, smile, and keep it going. But I know good and well, I will be happy when our scores are better, but I don't want you signing off on the fact that you helped us raise these scores. Like,
Gotcha.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you ever think of teachers as being fake?
Yeah. Teachers, human beings are human beings, and yes.
Do you think that teachers, this is like, well, it's on topic. Do you think that as an administrator that teachers are always trying to perform for you?
Some do, but I have a whole lot that show me their true selves, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they've learned that they can show me their true selves,
mm-hmm.
but I'm going to call out the greatness in them. So if they
mm-hmm.
are in a place where they are acting immaturely, or they are, overreacting,
mm-hmm.
and I'm very careful with teachers' feelings. So if it's something towards a peer or something, of
mm-hmm.
that nature, I'm going to definitely have a conversation about it. And it'll be a loving conversation. And it hurts at first, and then teachers, you're not supportive, and but it's just like,
mm-hmm.
you know who I am, that you're not going to be treated any differently after this conversation is had.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do feel like some teachers will definitely say things to your face as an administrator, and then go back and rip you to shreds.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is what it is, and
I really do feel like sometimes there's a lack of those difficult conversations.
Right.
So you can say that when I'm not in the room, and you can say it to another administrator, you can say it to even a coworker, but when it comes time to actually tell that person something about what you feel, I feel like that might be what's lacking sometimes, because that way I can't really have respect for you.
Well, that, and then having the discussion about it outside of you.
Before they even talk to you about it. It's like...
So if you're talking to, who are you talking to about it for it to come back to me?
Mm-hmm.
So just being very careful. And one of my favorite questions in my little workshop that
mm-hmm.
I do at TeacHer Heart Out is, what is it that teachers do to break trust with students
mm-hmm.
and or parents, and what is it that administrators or principals do
mm-hmm.
to sever trust between principal and teacher?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all the same. All the answers are really the same. It's the same thing that would,
right.
What would your spouse do to break trust with you? What would your
right.
friend do to break? Like, all of it is the same.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the most common ones is about the teacher and student is a student hears you talking about another student.
Mm-hmm.
And, and it's the same thing. What would break trust between a principal and a teacher is if a teacher hears about you talking about them to another teacher, which
mm-hmm.
is, but it happens. It happens
right.
for sure. So it sounds very simple and easy
mm-hmm.
to avoid, but it does happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, I feel like I was in the middle of a lot of extra stuff that was going on. And I really did have to pray about just having bitterness in my heart towards one of our administrators because of the way the hostile environment that she was creating. And so I had to let that go and just forgive her, because I'm really big on forgiving people, and, however it is what it is. And, I feel like that is important for teachers to do, because you might be offended and they have no idea that they have even done anything to you, even if you told them. Okay, maybe they weren't listening at the time, or maybe they were just trying to do their job or whatever. And just, having grace for people is super important.
I agree with that 1,000%.
But then I also agree with what Stacie was saying, was you can try all you need to try. And if you need to remove yourself by all means, school dismissed and go on and do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because it's not always, like, you don't want to burn yourself out. You have to be there for your own family. You have to be there for real life. So work is one part of your life, but it's not your whole entire life.
Right.
And I remember being like one of those days, and I think I was coming to do the podcast, and I was like, I'm leaving this place. I'm going to my real job. And I just laughed so hard because I was like, thank God I'm not all in just only a teacher.
Right.
And we have other things going on with our lives.
That is helpful.
Right.
Too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It really, really is to help keep your balance and sanity.
Mm-hmm.
To have a life outside of school.
Mm-hmm.
If all of your being and all of your self-esteem and all of your confidence lies in only your teaching
you're not going to make
profession, I mean,
you'll make it if you're at like this really high performing school. But even there, it's like you still have the pressure of, so, even like the AP that are teaching the smartest kids in the school, they're like, what kind of scores did you get? How many 5s did you get? Oh, yeah, you got a 4? Like, all of that. And teachers are even in the AP level. This is like, they're encouraging kids to withdraw their scores so that they don't look bad. Like,
oh, wow.
Like, for the College Board, like, just go in and just cancel out your score because, if you didn't do well, then, so it's like, comes back on them as having all 5s or having only 4s and 5s and no 2s and 1s. So, yeah, it's crazy. The pressure and, how Americans and the competitiveness and all of that really does play a role. But, girl, save yourself. What's Casey say?
Put on the mask. Put on you first, then the kids around you. Yeah. So,
ooh, well, that was good. That was a great teacher talk.
I enjoyed it. The things you wish you could say to your principal. That's what we need to call these segments.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's about it. That was a great teacher talk.
Yes, I enjoyed it. Ooh, I miss you all so much.
All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to contact us, follow us on Insta and Facebook at Sweet Tea and Sunshine Podcast.
If you like what you hear, support us on Patreon. Thanks. Bye.